Hi, I'm Megan James, Director of Profit Through Process Week IQPC. I'm here today with Steve Towers, founder of bpgroup.org and co-host for our Next Generation BPM Summit in January. We're going to talk today about the future of BPM ideologies and also a little bit in more detail about our partnership for Profit Through Process Week in January. Hi Steve, good to have you with us.
Pleasure, Megan.
So to start us off, could you give us a brief overview of the concept of outside in and how that links to traditional BPM thinking?
Okay, I think the best way we can think about outside in is in the context of the phrase, the customer experience is the process. Mm-hmm. And whereas BPMs tended to concentrate on what's going on within the enterprise, what we're saying with outside in is that looking at the customer experience, there's a lot going on that normally within the enterprise we're not concerned about. So outside in really is built on this philosophy that if we can truly understand all aspects of the customer experience, we can finally get a grip on delivering successful customer outcomes rather than just delivering things which come out of our traditional pyramidal divisional formats.
Okay, Steve, so on last count, I think there was nearly as many as 6,000 business improvement methodologies that you could find. Why do we need another one, and what does outside in give that others don't?
I think methodology, yeah, there are lots out there, and Wiki will tell us that sure enough there are 600. I think outside in is more a philosophy than a particular methodology, because within outside in the basic idea is that we put the customer at the centre of everything that we do. So accordingly, different organisations might take a different perspective on that. And a way of summarising the thinking there is it's a Copernican shift for organisations. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is that putting the customer at the centre of our respective solar systems rather than somebody that we see on the periphery, you know, somebody in the orbit of Neptune, for instance. So the customer is an integral part of whatever we're doing. So outside in philosophy, companies in the US, such as Best Buy, for instance, call the outside in approach customer centricity, right? And some people would argue, oh, yeah, great, we've got customer centricity, but to be truly customer centric in the outside in way, you have to see the organisation not only through the customer's eyes, but with a view to achieving successful customer outcomes. So our particular methodology and approach that we endorse within the BP group, Chem method, has arisen after a number of years of practice from those leading organisations and distills, if you like, a set of thinking that is easily applicable in any situation. So organisations who are already doing, say, for instance, Lean and Six Sigma can advance their thinking and deliver outside in.
I mean, following on from that then, I mean, obviously in the Lean Six Sigma world and the BPM world respectively, there's been undoubtedly a lot of challenges and a lot of successes as well. So what does outside in give that these pre-existing methodologies don't?
Okay, in terms of measurable business results, we have to think about, you know, what we're calling success. And the inside-out philosophy, perhaps what we spent most of the 20th century doing, was really geared around key performance indicators which were driven out of functions. So say, for instance, customer accounting, customer service, retentions, and that sort of thing. Now, those measures, we hope, contribute to achieving customer success, but they don't explicitly do so. With outside-in approaches, the success you're trying to achieve is linked directly back to everything that you're doing at a day-to-day level. So in terms of adding measures on, there's companies out there that have come from, say, a Lean perspective, who are then saying, law of diminishing returns, we've invested heavily in Lean, it's given us a good return, but the more we spend, the less we're getting back. If you extend the scope to encompass the customer experience, you can apply some of that thinking, but more appropriately, outside in measures. In other words, those SCO, successful customer outcomes, to actually guide your behaviour within each of the processes within the organisation.
Obviously, customer centricity is at the heart of outside in. But when you speak to a lot of CEOs and business leaders out there, they seem to understand or already be employing customer centricity to some extent. What does outside in give that is over and above what they're already doing? How is it different?
The best way of thinking of that is that they see customer centricity through the lens of the functional silo way of working. Whereas real customer centricity in our outside-in way, as I say, is that Copernican shift. The customer is at the centre of everything that we do. So accordingly, the functions and specialisms that we've got are less important in terms of the delivery to that end customer. So truly customer centricity involves this idea of every process only exists to achieve a successful customer outcome, right? And therefore we're trying to figure out within the process context not only those things that perceive to add value to a process in a functional silo way, but those things which will deliver an SCO and reinforce the relationship.
So it sounds like you've had some absolutely fantastic results. I mean, if I've got it right, I've heard claims that some of these process improvement projects are delivering more than 20% in under 3 months. So how is this possible for companies that have already gone through many process improvements and optimised a lot of their processes already?
You're quite right in saying it seems almost incredible, some of the numbers that these organisations who are successful in this space talk about. And the easy way to think about that is that we talk about dumb stuff and people stopping doing dumb stuff, which can free up lots of cost and improve service. Well, the people doing that stuff, it doesn't appear to be dumb because it's been built out of a sense of what our organisation is setting out to achieve. But as we've already indicated, if we think about it from an outside in, we're saying to ourselves, is this task, this activity, this process, this system contributing to the achievement of the successful customer outcome? If it isn't, then in our outside-in parlance we would say that that's dumb stuff. And when you stop doing dumb stuff, costs can fall away, speed of process increases, and we become better aligned to that overall outcome, which is the pleased customer that comes back and, in a revenue-generating sense, buys more things. In terms of the discussions that we have with those C-level guys who are sort of saying, what's the order of magnitude, 20% is the beginning, really, because what you're doing is you're examining your organisation through this outside-in lens, which gives you the capability to actually not only challenge things within a functional framework, but begin to sort of say is not only processes cutting across the organisation, but how does that each process contribute to that delivery of the SCO? So we do that through a set of specific measurable statements that are aligned with that outside-in approach.
So it's absolutely possible then for somebody that's already done a lot of process improvement to really get some good value from this approach?
Oh, I would say it's not only possible, it's inevitable. It's just that looking at process with that different perspective can create that capability. And there's enough examples out there in terms of, we've seen the numbers coming through from the world's leading companies, and some of them are evolved at the conference, so we'll see for ourselves. So
you've talked a lot about some of the big successes this approach has had. Can you give me maybe one real example that you can quote that's leveraged the outside-in approach to really achieve these successful customer outcomes?
A good example might be, for instance, Best Buy is a well-known US retail IT player. And within their sector, many of their competitors have fallen by the wayside and, in fact, have disappeared off the radar altogether. So what is the difference Best Buy are doing that the others aren't? Well, we would say, yes, it's customer-centric, but not just in the phrase customer centricity. It's the way you organise people. It's the way you orientate work to actually achieve the SCO. So we have a way of identifying within processes, for instance, what actually causes the work that you and I see as process. And we call those things process diagnostics. What Best Buy have been very good at doing is understanding process diagnostics, the causes of work, and accordingly engineering those things so that they create not only the best experience but the most worthwhile experience as far as generating revenues and continually reducing cost. Yeah. There's many other examples out there, and in fact there's various surveys have been done over the last few months which demonstrate that on one of the surveys, a company called Millard Brown Optima have identified that somewhere in the region of the top 10 companies in the world, of those top 10 companies in terms of brand value, 8 of them have a component of outside in.
That's looking at the past. Let's look to the future. What would you say that 2011 and perhaps even beyond holds for both BPM and the outside-in community?
Okay, in terms of the overall community, it's an adoption of techniques and approaches which are additional to the things we're already doing. So we've already seen that in the context of very good lean companies moving to the next level. We see that through the awards process, those companies who are coming forward with case studies and representations which have said, great, we've done the lean thing, we've done the Six Sigma thing, we've really maxed out on where we want to be, what to next. Well, the What To Next is a series of techniques and approaches which are readily accessible by people across the organisation, so not just the process professionals, so that the managers and the people doing the work can readily adopt those approaches. And we've articulated somewhere in the region of 21 of those. And those can be added to your existing portfolio of the way you do change. Okay. And then accordingly, those simple techniques and approaches can reinforce this changing the direction of the organisation, so it points towards the true north of customer success.
So Steve, you're obviously going to be covering a number of these issues in quite a lot of detail at the Profit Through Process Summit in January. Can you give us a little more insight into some of the topics you'll be covering in both the keynote and some of the panel sessions you'll be running?
We've just discussed techniques and approaches, so obviously that's a big component. There's some very well-grounded case studies of people doing this work, but also there's a convergence taking place in the process world at the moment of different types of what were previously regarded as, if you like, silo specialisms. Mm-hmm. So we've already referred to Lean and Six Sigma, process improvement, there's business process re-engineering. There's even guys in the arena of enterprise architecture. Now, what that convergence brings to us is the opportunity to obviously share a whole set of new ideas, but within the context of the conference, cover off those ideas with the view to moving outside in. Mm-hmm. So in our sense, that's going to cover areas like technology, what technologies are the right ones that we should be using, who are the players in the space who are able to actually help us go outside in, what about the people issues? Does outside in imply that we have to change our structure and our reward systems? So there's people who are doing that, who will be talking and sharing with us exactly how they've gone about doing that. And particularly when we think about the process world, many of us have process repositories, we have tools and technologies that we're familiar with. Which ones of those are flexible and adaptable to helping us to go outside in? So all in all, from a conference point of view, we've got something in there, we think, for every level. The panels are very much structured around having the debate for hot topics. We've got the researchers in there bringing some of their findings to the table. But more important than all, I think the result we're going for is a pragmatic takeaway, so that everybody can go away and we've learned something new, but we've managed to network and exchange ideas.
Thanks very much, Steve. It's been brilliant to hear some of those insights. I think you've truly touched on a number of challenges around customer centricity that many of our communities are facing today, whether that's Lean, Six Sigma or BPM. So thank you very much for your insights today, and I look forward to talking more in January.
Yeah, it's going to be phenomenal. Thanks very much.